Happy Sunday. Welcome back. Happy August. Happy all of the good and great and wonderful things. I am Coach Yolanda, International Spiritual Life Coach, certified perinatal educator, lactation educator, dot. And I am so happy to be back with y'all. I want to start by saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for the pause. Thank you for being gracious as we took a break for the month of July. I missed y'all, and I'm grateful for the energy that we share, the comments, the support, the financial support. There are some of you who support me financially in ways that I don't expect. I'm grateful for that. The comments, even after we've stopped, sometimes I'll go back, not often, but sometimes I'll go back and look at how many of you have viewed our meditations. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for it all. And I absolutely missed this. I was appreciative of the break and the rest, but I did miss this. And I am so grateful to be here today. Okay, before we get into anything, I'm just going to go ahead and say the tears are going to flow. They were already flowing before we started. And they've pretty much been off and on for a while now. I made an announcement on my Instagram and my Facebook the other day that there are particular services that I am no longer providing. And all of that is the bigger picture is I know that I am gently, softly releasing Evolving Spirit Wellness, my business. And that has me in my feels because it's my baby. I've had a lot of businesses across my lifespan. Even when I was a kid, there was always something that I was doing or creating, and whether I knew it was a business or not. But this business, and it is a business, is the closest and most aligned to my life that I have ever felt. And so it feels like it's my baby. And so it does feel like I'm releasing my baby to do other things. And that has not come easily. And so I want Evolving Spirit Wellness to have a peaceful journey, a peaceful transition. And so there will be other changes to come, and it's all for the good. But just because something is for your good doesn't mean that it's not difficult to do or difficult to experience. And so lots of things have changed, lots of things are changing, and I am learning to adjust. As you can see, the background is different. For those of you who have been to the physical location of Evolving Spirit Wellness, these images behind me may be familiar to you. They were separated for a little bit. And I felt like I need to have this powerful female energy around me. And so these images represent three of the Orishas, Yemiya, Oshun, and Oya. And I collected them at different times in my life without knowing what they represented. But this is what they represent for me. As you can see over my shoulder, I was gifted a beautiful sculpture representing the energy centers. The artists, I have to shout them out because not only is this an amazing piece, there are other amazing pieces. So find them on Instagram. Jair is amazing. And when I say their work is out of this world, it literally is out of this world. So having this powerful energy around me has been supportive as I allow this peaceful transition to happen, even though it's of my choosing, even though it's something that is for the greater good. Again, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to grieve it. And so I got my tissues on standby as we talk a little bit about what has been going on since we haven't been together over the past 4 to 5 weeks. Um, I have recognized that as much as I love Evolving Spirit Wellness, as much as I have poured in time, money, blood, sweat, tears, I am missing out on the moments with my loved ones. And that is not something that I care to do. If you were able to watch the Work It Wellness Wednesday with Marissa, we talked about freeing ourselves from oppressive ideas of generating income. And Marissa did a great and phenomenal webinar on Tuesday about how we can become our own entrepreneurs based upon our skills, our knowledge, and things that we are already doing to free ourselves from oppressive ways of being. And I recognize that even in the business that I created, I was being oppressive. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to fly to Houston for hey, my love. I had an opportunity to fly to Houston. And that experience, even though it was a great experience, I received a certification in something that is going to serve me well. I recognize how I don't want to do that. I don't want to fly all over the place in this business. I missed my loved ones. I missed my home. And so my life, my family, my friends, my loved ones have to be the number one priority in my life. And that means other things have to be cut out. And so while it's not goodbye, eventually Evolving Spirit Wellness will transition into whatever it transitions into. Um, I've done away with the website because it's not necessary. I'm not taking on any new clients. The organizations that I am working with right now, it's enough. I am full. I am complete in what I am doing. And I don't think this would have been able to happen had I not been doing inner child healing. There is this overall theme in my experience as a child of working, 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 working. Now, I had the benefit of having a stay at home dad because he had retired from the military by the time I came along. And so I grew up with seeing my mother work, 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 work. Sometimes she would work 3 jobs. Sometimes she would work an overnight, just working, 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 working. And little me just wanted her mom. I wanted my mommy to be more available to me, but she was always working. And I recognize that a lot of my inner child healing is surrounded around the idea that I had in my head as a kid, not matching up with the reality of what I lived, and somehow thinking that I missed out on something. And so that is one of the key elements of inner child healing, because as children, we can create a story that somehow we missed out on something. And it doesn't mean that we didn't, but from the perspective of a child, it's going to look different than from the perspective of a healed adult. And so adult me now recognizes that little me has been acting up for the things that she thought that she didn't get. And now adult me is saying, you don't have to act up, little Yolanda. You have all that you need, and you get the opportunity to create what you desire. And if you desire more time with your family, with your friends, with loved ones, with new experiences, then you have to create the conditions for that to happen. And so that means some things have to be cut out. And evolving spirit wellness is one of those things. While I say I'm okay with it in my mouth, my heart hasn't caught up just yet, because as I said, this is my baby and I love it so. Hello, my love. It is so good to hear and see you. And that's one of the things that has been troubling me most. The people that I want to see and hear and spend time with, I'm not able to do that because the business always seems to get in the way. Happy Sunday, my love. If you haven't watched the Work It Wellness Wednesday with Marissa, please watch it. She is doing freedom work, and I'm so grateful to be able to participate in that because it resonated and it supported my choice to end my business. Even though Marissa's going to help you become an entrepreneur, I recognize that a lot of the conversation about being an entrepreneur was not where I want my life to go. Grandbaby girl is about to start preschool. I want to be there. My children, my adult children are transitioning into parts of their lives that I want to see, participate in, and be a part of. And it's just not possible trying to run a bit solo business and do all of the other things that I love to do. And so there is a lot of sadness and grief. And hey, Rachel, happy Sunday to you. Oh my goodness, thank you. That beauty and that light did not come with a small price. I tell you that. It has been some rough couple of weeks trying to have conversations with the creator and not fight. And not fight. I'm no longer fighting. And so thank you for that. Hey, Miss Erica. Oh, I'm so glad that you were able to watch Marissa and I could talk to Marissa. So many gems always come up when I talk to Marissa, and I hope to be able to do that again. Um, but that may have been the last one. I don't know. I am open to whatever the universe says is going to be the most gentle way for me to release my baby into peace. And because anytime you experience something similar to something that you've experienced, all the feelings come up. So this loss feels like every loss that I've had in my life. It feels like the loss of my parents. It feels like the loss of my child. It feels like a loss because it is. I'm not losing, but it is something that I have decided to release. Um, I also have to mention that within my spiritual community, which some of you may or may not be aware of, there has been a great loss. One of my spiritual mothers, Iyanla Van Zant, lost her daughter, Nisa. And when I was going through my certification as a spiritual life coach, there was an exercise we were going through where we could not see. We were blindfolded, and Nisa had to lead me into, so I had to trust her. And I remember her being so funny, as it was literally she's leading me somewhere and I'm trying to control the situation, and she's keep telling me to just stop trying to be in control and just let me guide you. And so I hold Mama Ia, her family, our community in love and light as we all continue to pray for the unexpected transition of her second child, her second daughter. Um, and may the ancestors meet her with peace. And so there's been a lot of loss, not just within my own life, within my spiritual community. And so if you are or have been experiencing loss, let's talk about it today. That's why today it's check in, see what's going on, see what things have been springing up for us. Um, Inner child healing, it ain't always childlike and funny. It can be very, very heavy. I'm grateful for it. And I think that we should be grateful for all of the experiences that we have gone through that have brought us to this right now moment. Um, and if we can see them differently, hello, beloved, if we can see them differently, perhaps it can create and open up perspectives that we weren't even expecting, more mature. And so that is something that I can say that this inner child healing journey has done for me, where I've been able to see where I may be emotionally immature so that I can call forth some maturity. I can see where I may be spiritually and mentally, physically immature in my perspective, in my thinking, and asking for a different way of being. And so before we get into, um, let's talk about what's been coming up for us. Now, you know, we like to share in the comments. I know y'all love to share after you watch, and I'll go back and comment. Let me tell you something. When I get a notification that somebody has commented on a video that I've done, it always, always, always blows me away. So I'm grateful for those of you who have reached out and left comments on the video, because it really does support what I'm doing. And even though it's going to happen in a different way, doesn't mean that it stops happening. I know that I am living in my purpose. I know that I am exercising my passion. It's just going to happen in different ways. And I'm excited about that, but also grieving. So we've talked about so many different things over the past 6, 7 months. 7 months. Next week, we are going to, and I think I always say this, but the next developmental stage, 20 to 35, even if some of us are still in that developmental stage of 20 years of age to 35 years of age, it goes down. It goes down in that age range. There's something that happens to all of us at a particular point in that developmental stage that can change everything you thought you knew about yourself, about the world, about the universe, about everything in that developmental stage. We'll start to talk about that next week. But right now, I want to talk about some of the things and the developmental stages we've talked about in the past and some of the themes or developmental skills that may or may have not come up for us for healing. And I know I'm not alone in sometimes something will come up and we don't always identify it as an inner child thing. We just think of it as a thing. Um, our inner children want to be heard, they want to be seen, they want to be loved. And so if you are telling yourself a story about something you may not have received when you were little, it's going to come up now for some healing. As I said earlier, my mother worked. So young me told the story that I needed my mother more, that I needed her more. Adult me can now give little me the reassurances everything that you experienced happened the way that it happened, and it made you who you are today. I probably would not have started all of the several businesses that I have started if I didn't watch my mother work as hard as she did. So we have to be careful with our inner child healing that it doesn't turn us into a victim to say, well, I wanted this and this didn't happen, and I needed this and that didn't happen, and these people didn't show up for me. You could start to create a victim story if you look at it with that lens, from that perspective. Remember, adult, mature you has to reassure young you that there's nothing wrong with you, that you are innocent of anything that you may have experienced when you were younger. And as an adult, you are going to create experiences that support, affirm, recognize, and support whatever healing you desire, whatever choices you want to make now. You got to get the little people in line because they will fight you. I know my 16-year-old fights me on a daily basis. When I know I need to be mature, my 16-year-old will be like, nah, you don't have to do that. You don't need to back down. You the strong one, you're the tough one. Show them who you are, instead of the emotional mature person that I know myself to be, to say, what does it matter? Why are you fighting? Why are you fighting? The reason why most of us avoid conflict or find ourselves always in conflict is because younger us is taken over, instead of mature us that says conflict doesn't have to end in the way that we think, either a fight or we avoid it. Conflict could be a beautiful experience to discover who you are, where love is present, where you would like to create more opportunities of love, all of that. But that's a mature perspective. But you're not thinking that when you think you've been disrespected, when you think you've been, neglected. That's younger you saying it happened back then and it feels like it's happening now. And so my response may be as immature as it was when I was younger. So that's why we do the inner child healing. So some of the things that we talked about in the past, and if any of these are or have been resonating with you, I want you to let me know in the chat. Is she here? Sorry, I'm having a side conversation. Is she still in the United States? Because I sure would like to see her. So some of the themes, like we started with conception. We started with conception. I don't know what my parents' story is of conceiving me. I don't need to know the details. I don't really want to know the details. But what I do know is that there were things that happened to each one of my parents where me being here should not have happened. My mother had been told that she would never have children. You're in California. Oh my goodness. God bless. That's so exciting. So my mother had been told she wasn't going to have any more children. My father was severely injured in Vietnam and should not have survived. So those two events, I know those two things to be true. So technically I'm not supposed to be here. My birth story is one of them having to pull me out with forceps, with the whole suction thing, which also tells me that I probably didn't want to be here. So, all of those experiences are purposeful and show up in my life in one way or another. So, you may not know the exact details of your birth story, but it is important to who you are as a person. And so, we started with conception. How were you created? And what is your experience with creativity? Most of the time, when I need to be creative, it's because I'm being forced to be creative. I've either procrastinated and waited to the last minute, or I haven't been paying attention to something, and all of a sudden I got to be creative. Forced. That is the way that my relationship with creativity. And so when you think about your conception, your creation, it can also give you clues to how you create things in your life right now. So we started with conception. One of the other developmental skills that we talked about was synchronization, how all of these things have to sync up, link up for us to be here. And why are we not walking around like the miracles we are? Do you know how, when you think about the statistical data of what it takes to create a child, all of the millions of molecules and things that have to come together to create us, when you think of it in that way, we should be walking around knowing that we are miracles, knowing that if anything happened differently, we would not be here. And so we talked about that in terms of the synchronization that happened then that is still happening now. When you're so impatient and you can't figure out why things aren't happening the way you want them to happen, do you realize how many things have to move and be put in place before things unfold? It's like the butterfly effect. The butterfly that is flapping its wings in the rainforest 3,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away, or whatever, has an impact on things that are going on in your life in a day to day moment. So we should all be exercising some patience because all of these things have to come and synchronize and line up. And then when things do, we don't pay attention. I cannot tell you how many experiences in my life that I've had where I have met someone we were already connected before we met. That doesn't happen by accident. It's divine. And so paying attention to your relationship with alignment will serve you great when your inner children are impatient and trying to figure out why things aren't working out. Baby, things are always working out for you. Things are always working out for you, even when it looks like it's not. And so we talked about that. Marissa, thank you for showing. Oh my goodness. The birth story. I could talk about the birth story. I could talk about that all night. Again, not the particulars of who called who up on the phone and what time was it. What I'm talking about the overall facts of what happened and how you came into the world. Now, as a birth doula, I now know and recognize that tiny, tiny newborn babies are really the star of the show when it comes to being born. Babies decide, you know what, I've been in here long enough. I think I want to enter into the world. That type of power never leaves. It never leaves us. So if we had the power to decide when we wanted to enter into the world, what makes us think that we don't have the power to create and make choices and align things in our lives? Come on, y'all. So we talked about that. We talked about preparation. Before the baby comes, all these things are done for people, for everybody to prepare. Sometimes your life story does not include a lot of preparation. Doesn't mean that you weren't supposed to be here, doesn't mean that you are not loved, doesn't mean any of those things, but it could be an indication of what your relationship with being ready. What is your process to prepare? How do you get ready for things? Do you, like I do sometimes, wait until the last minute to do things? Do you do research, or do you just fly by the seat of your pants and then figure it out? Or, as I like to say, build the plane while it's in the air. What is your relationship with being prepared? It could very well be correlated to the way the world was preparing to receive you. For those of you who watched that video, y'all know I love The Healing Wisdom of Africa by Maladamo Some, and it talks about how in the Dagara uh, tradition in West Africa, the entire community and village prepares the way for babies to come into the world by asking the baby in the womb, how can we support your gifts? What gifts are you bringing forth to us? It's why I, do blessing ceremonies, because that type of energy, can you imagine that type of energy that everyone entered into the world knowing that there was a community to support them, love them, and that was waiting for them to come? So take a look at what your relationship with being prepared looks like. It could be correlated to the way you came into the world and whether people were prepared for you. After bringing 4 children into this world, I can't tell you that I was always prepared. Sometimes you think you have prepared for things, only to discover that there are some things that you may have forgotten. I am speaking, beloved. And yes, patience is something that we have to learn, and it often comes with situations where we are the most impatient. It's how we build that patience muscle. Baby girl. That's my baby girl. I don't know what that is about, but hmm. So, one of the other themes that we talked about was discomfort, because anyone who has witnessed a birth or given birth knows how uncomfortable it is. It hurts like a mother. Anything that is being born, that is being created, can also have that same amount of pain and discomfort. How do you deal with the discomfort of the things that you are giving birth to? Are you like some people who are like, this is too hard, I don't want to do it? Are you like some people who feel like it has to be difficult because if it's not difficult, then it's not going to be meaningful? What is your relationship with discomfort? It may have been something that you learned when you were younger. If you've never had the experience of rest and ease in your family, then you may not make that a priority in your life. No one in my family showed me how to rest. As a matter of fact, we actually got in trouble for taking naps. You are too young to be sleeping. Get up and find something to do. I did not want my children to have that experience. We are a family of nappers. We like to rest. Grandbaby girl is not on board with it, but we're going to get her on board. I did not want my children to have the experience that you always have to be working, 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 working. I did not want that to be a lesson that I taught them. And so I'm hopeful that the lesson with discomfort, when they are creating things, they know to put some rest, put something gentle and easy within that. It's one of the things that as a birth doula, I, want to impress upon my mothers, because I'm telling you, there's this energy where we think if my birth story sounds more horrific, then somehow I'm going to get a prize or a gold button or something. It hurts no matter how it happens. It's not comfortable. It's a human being coming out of your body. So it's not going to be pleasurable. However, it doesn't have to be the worst experience that you've had in your life if your relationship with discomfort, if you can come to some kind of peace with knowing it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. And so, how do you deal with discomfort in your life? How does it show up? What is your response to it? It's probably correlated to the lessons that you learned in your childhood, more often than not from your family of origin. If the way in which discomfort in your family was dealt with, where people just didn't talk about it, you avoided it, you act like it didn't occur, then you may have grown up to be an adult who doesn't like conflict, who doesn't like when things get too difficult, you're ready to run. To the other extreme of that, if everything was a big issue, everything was a blow up, everything was uncomfortable in your household, you may not be used to peace and comfort. You might be creating chaos because that's what you grew up in and that's what you're used to. So, inner child healing is, let me look at what my developmental lessons were so that I can either change them, praise them, retain them, or say, I don't even remember. Some of us have blocked out a lot of our childhood experiences because they may have been so traumatic, it's too painful. I'm here to tell you, you're going to have to face those issues because they are still showing up. For those of you who have ever spent any amount of time around a toddler, you know that the word no is their favorite word. Grandbaby girl right now is not only just saying no, but saying no way. And I love that about her, because I think each and every single one of us, especially those of us who have been people pleasers in the past, you got to have a strong no. That is at the time in a toddler's life where they are starting to become independent and free and learning about the world, learning about the environment, recognizing that they are a separate entity from their caregivers with a voice. And so when we talked about that in the past video, having a strong no, having boundaries, I don't ever want to take the power of a boundary away from my grandchild. And I see it on a daily basis. I work in a childcare environment and I see it on a daily basis where we are taking power from little people, and then we can't figure out why they don't have any boundaries, because we're not teaching them appropriately. Teaching them boundaries have to be set, boundaries have to be respected, and I got to recognize when a boundary is necessary. So when a little person tells you no, you have to listen within reason and then figure out how to do what's best for them without damaging their self esteem, their self expression, and their self worth. Because I guarantee you, if you damage it when they're a toddler, it's going to be damaged as a teenager, and it's sure going to be hard to restore as an adult. Yes, I want grandbaby girl on my team. When I need to say no and I'm feeling like a little kid that doesn't know how to say no, I need grandbaby girl's voice on a recorder. No way. She'll give you the hand motion like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And so many of us have turned into people pleasers because no one showed us how to say no, or our no was taken away from us. We didn't have a choice. And unfortunately, it happens on a daily basis. And sometimes we're not even recognizing it, where people hear our no, but they just disregard it. I'm going to do whatever I want. Adults without boundaries were probably toddlers without boundaries. They either at the extreme got to do whatever they wanted to do, or had parents that were so strict they didn't know how to make appropriate choices or never learned how to make appropriate choices. So being comfortable with the word no is something that all of us have had to have an experience and relationship with. And I'm at the point in my life that when I hear a no, I'm grateful because I know where I stand. I don't have to hear a no and then think, well, how do I get my way? If it's a no, then there's probably a greater thing for me. If I'm doing something and I'm having a difficult time doing it, there are times when I will be like, you know what? This is not for me to spend my energy on. There are other things that need my attention. I'm taking your guidance and your wisdom that this is not it. And if it is, then it'll circle back around. But right now, I'm going to take no. And I'm going to learn to be okay with it. One of the other things that we talked about, and it is in alignment with having a strong no, is self expression. Can you articulate who you are without it being attached to other people? So if I ask you, well, who are you? And you start to say, well, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a stockbroker, who are you in here internally? And can you say it in a way that makes other people believe it? So if someone says to me, who are you, Yolanda? I'm a lover. I love love. I love spreading love. I love receiving love. I may not always have it figured out, but I'm damn sure going to be hard pressed to do what's necessary because love is who I am. Love is what created me, and that's who I am. That I'm coming to see you, and I'm not taking. Please don't take it, and I won't give you a no. Winnie, you have been. I love you too much to say no to you. Matter of fact, you don't even need an invitation. You know the doors are open, the gate is open, the fire pit is ready. Um, being able to articulate who you are first has to come with a knowing of self. You can't express who you are if you don't know who you are, if you're not confident about who you are. Even if you don't believe it 100%, you'd have to know that it's growing. So even if I ask someone, who are you? And they say, I'm growing into, that's still an indication of knowing who you are without being attached to something external, knowing what feels good to you and how you can express it, which leads us to one of the other developmental stages and areas that we talked about, pleasure. How do you know who you are if you don't know what feels good to you? If you're always waiting for other people to tell you what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, how it should feel, how are you supposed to know what's good for you? How are you supposed to know what you're aligned with? How are you supposed to know what you're connected to? And it could be because so many people were trying to tell you what you were supposed to be when you were younger, you never developed the skill to know it for yourself. If other people's expectations molded you and guided you along the way, as an adult, it can be difficult for you to connect with things at a heart level. So, one of the most magical places for me to think is in the shower. So, when I was in the shower this morning, I was thinking about how I'm good at conflict resolution when it's with other people. I literally have had jobs where I was a mediator, where I was an investigator. I had to investigate, not necessarily who was right or who was wrong, but I had to be diplomatic. I had to resolve conflict with people who just were not seeing things eye to eye. I could do that all day, every day for other people. But when it's for me and it's tied to my heart space, not so great. I don't like conflict because I'm going to do one or two things. I'm going to try to hurt you or I'm going to avoid you. And neither of those things are helpful. And they're actually the same energy. Neither one of them gets to the heart of what the issue is. Both of them are actually avoidance tactics. If you're ready to fight someone every time there's conflict, you don't want to get to the issue. You just want to be right and you just want to hurt and you just want to, be a bully. If you avoid conflict, you don't want to have the conversation, you run, again, you just don't want to get to the heart of the matter. And so many of us can do things out in the world with other people, but when it comes to the things that are attached to our heart, we can have some challenges and some difficulty. And I know for me, that's my inner child response. When I was a little girl and there was conflict going on in my house, I either went somewhere and hid or I jumped right into the fray. Now, when I was younger, I would go and hide. But as I got older, I'm right there with the mouth, with the hands. I'm who's fighting? I want to be a part of it. So I didn't learn because I didn't see it and I wasn't around it. Conflict resolution in my household was slamming doors, people stop talking to one another, and then we just forget about it. And you don't develop skills on how to have clarifying conversations if you don't see it, if you're not around it. And as an adult, we can struggle in our personal interactions with one another if we just don't have those skills. So you have to look at what is your relationship with articulating who you are, what your desires are, and how you deal with conflict. One of the other things we looked at, which is coming up a lot for me in the spaces that I work, discipline versus punishment. And I believe Erica and Marissa, you may have been on that meditation where we talked about the difference between discipline and punishment. Punishment is usually an external experience where someone else says you did something wrong. It's usually not equitable to the offense. It's arbitrary. Sometimes it can come out of nowhere. Have you ever, as a child, been doing something and boom, you get knocked upside the head and you don't even know what for? Maybe you rolled your eyes. Maybe you said something under your breath. I don't know. But sometimes punishment doesn't really fit the experience or the crime, so to speak. Discipline is really a form of love because it takes time, it takes consistency, it takes commitment, it takes focus. And so we have to be clear about our relationship with consequences. Are you punishing yourself or are you exercising discipline? And so let's say you are trying to lose weight and you're eating well, and then one day you fall off the wagon and you start eating, all of the stuff you're not supposed to be eating. Do you punish yourself by saying, well, I'm not going to be eating for the rest of the week because I did a horrible thing? Or are you going to say, you know what, I wasn't clear about what it is that I say that I wanted to do, so I need more discipline. Discipline is a loving thing, and it shouldn't make you feel worse or horrible about yourself. It should make you feel like, yeah, I love myself more than I even know. So I have to exercise some restraint. I have to put some things in place that helps me stay focused. Yes, love above all. And I now have a better relationship with discipline. Now, when I was younger, to me, discipline and punishment were the same thing. I thought they were the same thing. So if I heard somebody say, you need to be disciplined or you need some discipline, I'm like, oh gosh, they're not going to tell me what it's about. They're not going to try to figure out why I did what I did. Discipline really is about research. It's like, okay, let's get to the root of why this is an issue and create some healthy boundaries for you to keep you disciplined, to keep you focused, to keep you on track. And so right now, I'm seeing a lot of that in the childcare setting that I work in, where we think we need to punish when we really need to exercise some discipline. Discipline is structure. Children thrive in structure. Children thrive in disciplined environments, and so do adults. And so if you look at your childhood experiences, did you have more punishment or did you have more discipline? Once you get very clear about the definition and the differences between the two, sometimes you got spankings, you don't know what you got a spanking for. Nobody explained, nobody said what they wanted you to do or what the expectation was. It was, if you do it again, you're going to get it even worse. And so it never really changes the behavior. It just taught us how to be sneaky and how not to get caught. Discipline comes with some wisdom. Discipline says, listen, the reason why you can't do this thing is you could get hurt. And the last thing that anyone wants is for you to get hurt. So let's put some parameters around your behavior, or let's give you some other things, alternatives that you can do so that you're not hurt. Punishment doesn't always come that way. And so get very clear about what your relationship is with discipline and punishment and whether you avoid both of them. Some of us, because of our experiences when we were children, don't even want to hear discipline, don't even want to hear punishment. We just want to, live, live, live. And we don't have restraint. We don't have boundaries. We don't have the things that we need in place. All humans need in place to keep us functional, to keep us focused, to keep us committed, and to keep us consistent with the life that we say that we want to live. And so I love that video. I don't even remember what what age and stage, but if you go back through the YouTube playlist, all of these categories are listed in the thumbnail. We talked about freedom. And as I said, oh, I'm so grateful that you found that helpful. It was helpful to me, and I tell you where one of the sources of that definition came from All About Love by Bell Hooks, where she talks about discipline and consequences and how we have to get better connected to everything having a consequence and not being afraid of facing consequences, but learning from them. That's where our wisdom comes from. And so, if you haven't had a chance to read All About Love by Bell Hooks, the Evolving Spirit Wellness Community read it last year. We took all year to read that book, and it was profound, I believe, for all of us. One of the other developmental skills that children need to learn is freedom. Sometimes our children's lives are so structured, or maybe our childhood experience was so structured, there's no freedom. For those of you who grew up in the church experience where you went to church seems like six days out of the week, very structured, and there was very little room for freedom of expression, for freedom to discover what things you like. That's why I love free play, letting kids figure it out, letting them understand what conflict resolution looks like through play. Let kids be free to explore, to have adventures, to make choices. We don't have a lot of that. Nowadays, kids' lives are so structured and they go from one thing to the next thing like little adults. Instead of when we were younger, where we had to learn, if I climb up this tree without any shoes, I may scratch myself or I may not get up the tree. So let me make a different choice. We were a little bit more rugged, those of us of a certain age. And so there was a little bit more freedom. Oh, Rachel said she's opened it back up. Listen, my copy of All About Love is all beat up, but I'm gonna go back to it every single time. Every single time. And so, what is your relationship with freedom? Did you know that among us, there are some adults who still have issues with being free? Free in their thinking, open and willing to do things, just stuck in the way that they are. And just yesterday, I found a quote, and it was so profound that there is something that you need to change, but you haven't changed it yet, it's because it's still serving you in some capacity, whether it's a negative capacity or a positive one. The reason you're still doing it is because it's serving something. Give yourself the freedom to start making new, bold, brave choices. Risk. Life itself is a risk. Waking up every day, whether you leave your house or not, we have no idea how much time that we have in these bodies, this temporary human body. If freedom and adventure and exploration isn't a part of your daily life, I hope that you will consider looking at your relationship with why. Maybe you had a life, a childhood experience where everything was done for you, everything was told to you, and maybe you did not develop the skill of being a free thinker. We can see the effects of that, where somehow everything is influencing us and telling us what to do instead of us making our choices for ourselves. And somewhere along the way, maybe you made a choice and it maybe didn't work out well for you. I hope that it didn't sting so much that you now don't trust yourself, because that is also closely linked with freedom. Are you trusting yourself? Are you trusting your ability to make choices? Are you trusting your inner knowing? Your inner knowing brought you into existence as a newborn baby. Why we are not still trusting that inner knowing, I have no idea. Well, I got a couple of ideas. And I know it's difficult because we don't want to think about failure. There is no failure. You're going to learn something, you're going to gain some wisdom. You might skin your knees up, but you've skinned them up before. And so every single day, there should be a commitment to freedom. And my choice to release my business is probably one of the most adventurous things that I think that I have done. But I recognize that every other time in my life when I took a risk, when I jumped off the ledge, I was always caught. And sometimes I even flew even higher. And so try, please, please, please try to look at your relationship with freedom. We are so used to being told what to do and living in these oppressive experiences that we have forgotten how to be free. We have forgotten how to make choices for ourselves. We got to go before a committee of 20 people and ask them all the same question before we feel like it's resonated in our soul. When at all times, we are co creating with the universe. So if I'm co-creating with the strongest, most powerful force in the universe, why do I got to tell 20 other people or ask 20 other people for their input, their advice? I have to trust me and trust that the decisions that I make for myself are going to lead me into wisdom or they're going to lead me into a new experience. Either way, I'm going to gain and I'm going to evolve. I am trusting that all things are happening for me the way that they are designed to happen. And there is no failure. I either win or I learn. And both of those experiences have me winning. And so look at your relationship with freedom. How free are you willing to be? And what are you willing to do for your own freedom? You might have to give up some stuff. You might have to give up some stuff that feels very, very lush and comfortable. You might have to give up some stuff that you have felt that was your safety net. Was it your safety net or was it the cage that you just couldn't see it for what it truly was? Because it has kept you from evolving, kept you from expanding, kept you from experiencing life in the way that you really, truly want to experience it. Marissa says, oppression teaches us to fear the future. Mm. You see why I like talking to Marissa? Oppression will tell you that you can't do the very things that you were designed and created to do. It's in you, you feel it, you're connected to it. And then there's this little voice that's like, yeah, but so and so did it and it didn't work. Or what makes you think you could do that? Free yourself from that oppressive type of thinking, which is one of the reasons when I realized that my business had become the toxic place in my life, I got to release it because I'm not even going to let myself create an energy of toxicity that keeps me from being free. I done been oppressed. It ain't fun. I don't like it there. And I don't plan on returning. I want to be where it's free and peaceful. And if I have got to, like a bear caught in a trap, if I got to chew my own paw off to get it, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do that. And one of the things that I think is the overall theme to inner child healing is self love, which includes what I've talked about trust and pleasure and opportunity. There are so many opportunities for us, waiting for us, created for us, that synchronization that I talked about. Can you imagine your spirit guides, your spirit teams, your ancestors putting all these things into place and you sitting over there scared to receive the very things that were created for you, the things that keep you up at night, that keep you from sleeping, the thing that you sit and dream about. Oh, I wish I could do this, and I wish I had done that, and coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and all of that. Can you imagine that on the other side of that shoulda, coulda, woulda is the very thing that you desire? And all you have to do is just take one step toward it. Get disciplined. Look at your relationship. What is telling you that you can't do it? What is it? Who is it? I guarantee you, it's not your own voice. It's something that you learned along your lifespan, something you heard, something you saw, something you bought into that you are believing, or that's whispering and keeping you from taking the risk, from opening yourself up. And I'm not saying that it's easy to discover what that thing is, but inner child healing can get you closer to what those things might be. And so, what are some of the things that we can do to support our inner children, whether it is conception you, in vitro you, newborn you, birth to 18 months to 3 years of age, all of those different developmental stages, which are based upon Erickson's developmental stages. When you look at blocks of time in that way and the development that happens in those blocks of time, it will give you information about what might be going on for you right now, why you feel frustrated, why you feel out of balance, why you are discovering things about yourself where you no longer want to project on to your parents. Well, if my mother, if my father, if my if all of these people had done different things, then I would be different. You would be. Doesn't mean you'd be better, doesn't mean you'd be worse. You don't know. All you have is the truth as it is right now, because we cannot go to the past and rewrite it, and we shouldn't try to rewrite it, but we can see it with a different perspective, a more mature perspective, and not from the perspective of a 10-year-old or a 13-year-old who really didn't know what the hell was going on. Which is why I say the first tenet of inner child healing is that children are innocent. And here you are holding yourself hostage, punishing yourself for something that happened when you were so young and you were innocent. But as an adult, it is your responsibility to do that work, to figure out what is the root of these issues. Why am I a people pleaser? Why am I putting myself last in all of my experiences with other humans? Why am I working myself to the bone, knowing that I'm not receiving in the same way? One of the other reasons why I know I have to release my business is because it was out of alignment. The output was not aligned with the input. And that's not anyone's fault. That's just the reality. If I'm running all over the place trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do next, I'm putting too much in places that exceed the capacity. I have to bring that back into alignment. And so my choice is based upon, and I know supported by a lot of this inner child healing. As I said, my mother worked, work. I watched my mother work up until she was 60 years of age and she retired. 2 weeks after she retired, her kidneys failed. She only had 10 years of life after that. Can you imagine? Can you friggin' imagine? And I know my mother was working from the time she was a teenager. That's what they did back in those days. Can you imagine working your whole life for other people and then you only get 10 years to yourself and your family only gets 10 years of you? Ain't no way. There's absolutely no way that that is going to be the life that I lead. And that is what my mother demonstrated and showed to me, that I'm not doing that. She earned my rest. This world does not need to get anything else from this young lady based upon the work that my mother and my mothers before my mother, all the work that they put in without it being reciprocated, without the world giving back to them in ways that they deserved. I'm resting. I'm loving. I'm enjoying. I'm not going to wait until I'm 60 or 65 for anyone to tell me, okay, you've earned your rest. I've already earned it. And we all have to decide what our lives look like, but we can't make those decisions if we don't look at our past to see how we were developed. And so I'm still learning things about myself from my childhood. I'm still learning how to have better relationships with some of these developmental skills. One of the things that we all have to do is acknowledge when there is some healing that needs to take place and let the healing happen. Instead of avoiding it, instead of acting like it's not present, we have to acknowledge it. We have to affirm ourselves. And that is what adult me gives to younger me, a reassurance that I'm going to look at this with a mature perspective. So I can tell my 16-year-old, you don't have to start a riot. You don't have to feel any kind of way because you feel disrespected. Let me take this, look at it from a more mature perspective, because each stage of your life is going to bring the same challenges in a new way. External things are going to impact you differently each time, but they still will impact you. But what you do internally will determine how you respond to what is happening externally. And so I'm grateful for this journey that we've been on. I can't believe that we're already in the 8th month of this year. This week, we right now, I think we got 5 or 6 planets in retrograde. We got the Lionsgate portal on Tuesday. There is a lot going on. If you are feeling out of sorts, yes, it's purposeful, but it's also a great opportunity for you to do some self discovery and some self awareness. And one thing that I love about inner child healing and also working around little kids, they have a great self awareness. They really, really do. Kids know what is going on. We don't give them enough credit. And I believe that we all come into this world with this knowing. And once we start to interact with the world in different ways, we either lose or forget some of who we are. But that is another reason why inner child healing is important. So, some of the things that you can do to care for all of who you are, not just adult you, little you, no matter what the age is, every single day you can do a check in. When you wake up in the morning, whatever your process is, whatever the thing is that you do to get yourself ready in the morning, do some mirror work, get in the mirror and say, okay, how, who am I working with today? Is it 8-year old me? And what did 8-year old me feel like they needed in their life? What did you need then that you feel like, what did you need then that you feel like you didn't get? And how can I give it to you now? You could even do it at random if you want to. Wake up one morning and be like, I'm gonna work with 10-year-old me, the 10-year-old version of me. Think about what was going on in your life, who was in your life, what things were going on, what did you think about at 10? What did you think you wanted to be? What things interest you? And is there something from your past that you always wanted to do, to say, to experience that you can give in a more mature way now, so that your 10-year-old isn't out here causing confusion because they feel like they didn't get their needs met? And not with the goal of making anyone wrong for it. This isn't about, okay, my 10-year-old didn't have a birthday party, so my parents failed me. This isn't about projecting or, blaming. This is about, let me get to the root of where my pain centers are so that I can give them what they need. So that when I'm in relationship with people, it's not spilling out of my mouth. It's not showing up in my attitude. It's not preventing me from loving people or letting people love me. I can be my full, authentic self because I'm connected to every part of who I am, every single part of who I am, the light, the dark, the shadows, all of it. I don't want to leave anyone out. I don't want to get to a particular part in my life and feel like, oh, I wish I, had done more work in my center of peace. I wish I could give myself peace because I didn't have it no, I'm going to give it to myself every single day. And when those moments come up, when I feel out of sorts, it is a divine opportunity to sit and ask the question, what do you need? How old is she? How old are you feeling right now? And sometimes when I ask myself that question, it comes forth so effortlessly. Sometimes I need a little bit more support through meditation. And before we leave today, I hope to do a short meditation with each of you that demonstrates what that looks like for me. And then maybe you can create your own version of that Um, but I have to love on my little people. I know that they were loved. I know my parents did what they could do. And I know there were some things left out. And I'm more than capable of giving those things to myself now. And if anything in my life had been different, I would be different. I may not have the self awareness that I have now. I may not be able to do what we've been doing every Sunday. Well, not every Sunday, but most Sundays this year. I may have succumbed to some of the lack of developmental growth that I had if it didn't get so daggone rough that I was fighting tooth and nail for my healing. I read something the other day that said, people with wisdom, people that you're around that have profound wisdom, baby, it did not come without a high cost. And every single one of us has that ability to create things from a perspective where we gain insight and wisdom and enlightenment instead of bitterness and sadness and anxiety and depression. I am not going to let my life experiences cause me to lose time with people I love because other things are in the way, my sadness, my darkness. I'm a fight to get to the light because that is the only place where I'm going to be able to appreciate the love that is present in my life. The love that has saved me, the love that sustains me, the love that I got to run back to when I'm all caught up in my ego and the little people within me are fighting, 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 fighting to be seen, fighting to be heard. That's when I have to acknowledge that they're present. That's when I have to affirm and say, listen, y'all, we don't have to do it like this anymore. That thing that used to work, that survival mode thing that used to work, we don't have to do that anymore. We're more mature now. Emotionally, we are so mature that we don't have to fight. We can do all things in love, or as Beloved says, love above all. And it might take some time to get to that place. But knowing and keeping that focus that that's the destination, like at the end of all of this hard work, I know there's going to be some love for me. And that makes it worth it. And so, with the little bit of time we have left, let's take a deep breath. Coming into this right now moment, mm, I'm so grateful for y'all. I'm grateful for your openness, your willingness to be supportive and to be so daggone complimentary. Thank you for the nice words, the love, and wherever you are, making sure that the energy around you is not about to disrupt this 5 to 10 minute focus on love and support, and community. The same love that has allowed us to connect with one another without ever being in physical proximity to one another. If that is not enough to show you how powerful love is, I don't know what other proof you need. The fact that along my journey, I have met and worked with individuals on 4 continents: Africa, Europe, South America, North America, and all of the countries in North America. And these are individuals that I may never meet in the flesh, but they are in my heart, connected to my heart space, connected to this work, connected to this desire for each and every single one of us to heal whatever pain may be present from the past. And so, wherever your little person within you is hurting, perhaps it is the 5-year old who was abandoned or neglected. Maybe it was the 10-year-old who was hurt because she decided to use her voice and tell the truth. Maybe it's the 13-year-old where no one wanted to see potential, No one wanted to see anything good. The only commentary was all of the things that you did wrong, said wrong, so you believe that there's something wrong with you. Maybe it's the 22-year-old who had to make some very fast and hard decisions about life that are still impacting you till this day. Maybe there's dreams that went unrealized because no one poured into you, or they poured into you so much that you felt like you were drowning. For all of the young souls, the young spirits, for all of that young mental energy, emotional energy, and spiritual energy, we are asking all spirit guides, ancestors, all in the spiritual realm who hold all things good and possible in the universe to provide the support necessary for ultimate healing, expansive healing, supernatural healing, because all children are always innocent. And along the way, we gather up the skills to survive the trauma, to survive the loneliness, the heartache, the heartbreak that we don't even have the language for based upon our developmental immaturity. And perhaps for those of us who had an experience of being connected to our pain at a young age, where it was dismissed, dishonored, or taken advantage of, may we hold in our heart the energy of forgiveness, first for ourselves, forgiving ourselves for ever thinking that there was something wrong with us, forgiving ourselves for making choices that were less than the beautiful creatures that we are, engaging in behaviors where we were asking for love, but it looked like something else. May we hold all of that energy so that we can restore and cleanse it to the original energy that brought us into existence to begin with. We did not come into this realm to cause dysfunction, to be a part of conflict, to hurt, to manipulate. We came here to love. And we are asking for a return to that purpose. Let us not forget that those of us, all of us, who know that love is the only healing agent that will heal all wounds, but we have to be, we must be, we gotta be willing to do whatever is necessary to allow that love to flow freely in our lives and in the lives of those we interact with. So please meet your inner children with love first, with wisdom second, with discipline third, with pleasure, with peace, with freedom, and all things that are branches of love. You've already done the hard part. Now it's time to do the loving part. And no matter where this spiritual journey takes us, we're going to take those inner children with us. So we might as well give them what they need so they don't disrupt the journey, so they don't cause a delay, a U turn, or find themselves in the weeds wandering, wandering, wandering. And may every expression within your body, every expression, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual, please let it be centered in love for yourself. knowing that those who cared for us when we were developing may not have had all that they needed to give us what we required. Let us find space in our hearts to be filled with enough compassion to say that we forgive you too for not knowing, for not having, for not being able to give what was necessary for every human spiritual being to develop. We give what we can when we are aware of what is present. And so now that we are all aware that love is always present, if we ask for it, if we move through it, let us give ourselves that love now. Be brave enough to love yourself in such a way that it confuses anything that is not centered in love. Confuses it so much that it goes on about its business to find some love for itself so that you can tell every version of you, you have always been loved and you always will be. I am so grateful for every human interaction that I have ever had centered on love. It remains with me now and will carry me to those next experiences. And if you are telling yourself a story or you feel that you are experiencing a life that is devoid of love, then I hope that you have felt that here, now, in this right now moment. I hope that you recognize that every word through every single one of our times together has been from a place of love, and it will continue to be so. It is how I receive it. It is how I give it. It's what we have created together. And for that, I am so grateful. I love y'all. Look at y'all. Y'all was supposed to have your eyes closed, meditating, and y'all over here giving love in the comments. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, this is not the end. We'll be back next Sunday. We're going to continue through December with inner child healing. That is a commitment that I made at the beginning of the year, and I am going to honor that commitment. What else happens, I have no idea. But as I said, Evolving Spirit Wellness is going to transition in peace and in love without me fighting. I probably will cry, but I know that it will be centered in love. And I'm telling y'all, I'm so, so thankful for all of the love that I have been shown, given, received, and reminded of. Listen, there are times when I'm like, I don't want to do none of this. I can't, people don't appreciate it. And then a comment will come through. And it is exactly what I need at the exact moment. So I thank you. I thank each and every single one of you for being a vessel and channel of love here and everywhere that I know that you go. You wouldn't be here if you weren't connected to love in a meaningful way. And I know that that's what you give in your personal life. I don't even have to follow you around to know it. I do know that those of us who love hard and love with our hearts wide open can sometimes feel like we get hurt more often than others. The truth of the matter is, those who are hard to love or who have been giving, I'm hard to love, the challenging children among us, they know what love is. Sometimes it's difficult to get to. Those are the individuals that we actually need to love more. Doesn't mean that you deplete yourself. Don't go depleting yourself trying to fight people with love. Um, but love is always present, even if it doesn't look like it. Search for it, create it, ask for it to come in. Ask for it. It's not too difficult to say, I need to see love in this moment and I need to see it now. Universe ain't gonna be mad at you if you start demanding love. As a matter of fact, I think more of us need to demand love on a daily basis. Like, there's not enough love in this experience, and I'm going to need that to happen right now. And so I'm grateful that we get to do that. If not for the rest of the week, at least for an hour or so on Sunday. Hey, my love. Same to you. I know that you have been going through a transition and you have been doing that in a loving way. And so thank you for being an example of love. One other thing, we in the comments, they will show up on YouTube. Go follow each other. Please do so. There is some great and amazing work being done in these spaces. In the comment section, I see people saying hi to each other, which means you know each other, you love each other, follow one another, support one another. If we want to create communities of love and support, then we have to start in some of the most obvious places where love is being discussed. And so we'll be back next Sunday, 1 o'clock, and we will continue our inner child healing. The next developmental stage is 20 to 35. Hold on to your hats. Hold on to your hats. We're going to talk about Saturn return. Lord have mercy. We're going to talk about it. So I would ask that if you're going to watch next week, if you're going to come in next week, I want you to have the year that you turned 30. 29 to 30, 31. 20, 28, 29, 30, 31. Those years. Keep those years. Yes, Saturn's return. Woo! Write those down. Write those years down, and we're going to talk about it. Okay? I love y'all. Thank you so much. Please go in love. Go love yourself. Go love some other people. Whatever you do the rest of this week, please let it be in love. Check in with your inner children every single day. What do you need? How can I support you? Sometimes just saying those words is going to be enough to shift some things for you. Trust me. When you haven't checked in with your inner children for a while, they will start jumping on your kidneys. They will start jumping on your shoulders. So please give your inner people, your inner little people, some attention this week. I love y'all. Bye bye.